So this is just a quick guide about how to make websites and certain stuff a little more accessible for disabled people. So first one I want to go over is to add captions to many videos. Well, not only captions underneath any images explaining the image, or captions off to the side if you have a text with a background behind it, because many people have a hard time seeing pictures or interpreting pictures, or they might actually purposely get rid of pictures because it is hard for them to, it causes migraines or headaches, or the internet's slow, or the device is running off things. And also internet accessibility, I'm not only talking about disability accessibility. Some people also might need captions of auditory things because they have auditory processing disorders things. Another thing to help along with this is no huge text blocks, because these can get really in the way of people with that have trouble reading big things, because their eyes can get lost and mix up the words more and stuff like that, especially dyslexic or have trouble focusing eyes and stuff, or have ADHD or something like that. Sections should be clearly separated and delineated also along this line, so they just don't go all over the place. And that's more than sometimes just a simple line. Sometimes that means opening text back and forth. Sometimes that means numbering, stuff like that. You want to have also maybe some features to remove certain backgrounds from a thing, because backgrounds can be highly distracting to many people. Besides being highly distracting to many people, they can hurt. They can cause migraines and more. So you want to at least have the option to remove backgrounds. Another thing that is really nice is to have a format option that's a dock format. Something that's built into a phone for people that have light sensitivity or sleeping troubles. And the dock format can, and the background remover in the dock format actually can also save power and make also less data streamed to a device. So that can actually help with bad, if they have bad electronic access or Wi-Fi access. So another bonus just right there. Besides having maybe an auto-generated caption option, it's sometimes also useful in the reverse to have an option that speaks out loud. Some people process that better. Now some people process better if they're both reading and hear that loud, because this stimulates different parts of the brain, or that the saying it out loud helps them follow the text better, while they can't fully also process the hearing out loud as much. It can also help if the person cannot look at the screen because they're having migraines or something in the moment too much. Now, I do want to say that I realize that not everyone can do all of this stuff because of accessibility issues on their own part. But if you can, please do it. And we should build better website builders to actually have this more built in, because there's a bunch like Squarespace stuff all out there. And if they could just build some of the stuff in more into the base model, that'll be very, very useful. So other people have to do less work. And that's what I'm talking about. Website builders need to really think about maybe building some of these features in the actual functionality of the device. So next thing that I want to talk about is what I can call a slow running version. And a slow running version is a version that works better on a device that is slower, or when you have bad internet access, because many disabled people live in impoverished places or places with not best internet access, where they have to use much devices all the time, so stuff slows down to overcome the disability, or they're just poor and can't afford the same fancy devices year after year, or they have to replace them more often because it makes stuff more useful. And also replacing can be harder for them because they have to go out and stuff like that. Also, the slow running version can also help them if they help people with other accessibility issues that are not disabled. PDFs, for example, are a lot better when slower things than Word documents. That's just one thing, or if you compress it and open up slowly. Another one that's different than a slow runner is what I'm going to call a slow mode. The slow mode is the idea that instead you have a mode where everything is slower. This is maybe for more games and video games and stuff. Because some of us have major hands-eye coordination issues and we can't hit buttons as fast. And that can make us not be able to play the same games or getting really frustrated with technology because everything's just too quick with us with our hands-eye coordination. This is a major issue I actually have. I don't play many video games because I just can't do it with the right speed. Or that there's a feature that you can do stuff quickly and proofread it and then submit it. So you could have games that you hit a bunch of buttons quickly, but then you don't, but only when you hit go does it do all the accents in some forms of games. Now, different games, different versions, and gaming is a important part of for disability because it can help with anxiety issues and stuff, and help with understimulation. It can give people communities that cannot normally reach out as much into the world outside and play sports and stuff. So gaming is an important thing. So don't dismiss this gaming thing as a totally weird thing. We can have slow modes for other devices. Maybe for like Word documents and stuff that just takes longer to run and customizable. But this could be also interesting if you can build into computers for some software itself and hitting buttons. Another one I want to talk about is one called easy text options. That's just that somewhere you have text that's not as maybe legalese. Some people call it this like fancy legal language or something, but it might be longer than your context or something like that. But it's easy to understand with the vocabulary and words. So people, because a lot of disabled people have to go through all this complicated legal stuff, and we're not lawyers. Just to put it simply. Or people might be an English language learner. So some of the stuff also applies to English language learners or other language learners. Now that I'm thinking about it, or people that are hard of hearing. So you have just easy. So having an easy language one or easy text, and also easy language when speaking aloud is also important, which I forgot to include. Capital letters can oftentimes be a lot easier to read than non-capital letter systems. So think really strongly about making everything capital when you can, or having options to make stuff capital. Also, along that, please think about making the fonts not too fancy, because fancy fonts can be really hard to read, especially if you have dyslexia or trouble focusing eyes and stuff like that, and they can even cause migraines in some individuals. Another one that I have problems with is if you can, it helps to have it in mobile languages, because some people are not as good at reading, learning new languages, and they may come from a different society, so less likely to learn a new language if you're disabled to some extent. So that becomes more of a barrier with language. But also, a lot of people that are disabled are living in a country that are not a native speaker, and they face more intersectional problems. So that's really true that people that in the US that come in as immigrants that don't speak English primarily get oftentimes mistreated by the medical system, or get themselves sick because they misread or misheard stuff, or they do not understand what people are saying. These are systematic barriers to face on top of stuff. There's a horrible time that people were repeatedly getting large overdoses that spoke Spanish because they mistranslated the word for medicine from 1 to 11 using automatic translator stuff. So when you do translating, think also about how important it is that the information gets right, because the more auto-translating it is, the more likely it's to be false. So if you need it, if it's something really important like medicine, hire a really professional to translate it, someone that really knows Spanish. If it's automatic translation, put a warning that's automatic translation and it might not be perfect, and there might be mistakes. Another thing to really look into is make sure this whole thing doesn't have any flashy images or stuff like that can really cause migraines or flashes, or try to reduce or have an option in the system to reduce it somehow. The reducing option would be really cool, but it might not be doable for many people to actually implement such a system. Another thing is have someone go over your language and read the language yourself multiple times to make sure it's inclusive and nice. It's better to have multiple people with multiple different backgrounds read it and be able to also submit ways backwards, because back to you, feedback back, because in the future too, because you might have missed something just because of your specific identity or when you made it or tired. I also wish they did better training for all this stuff. Now, another one is that oftentimes with a lot of things, the medical model is used with disabilities, and that can have a huge negative consequence because it makes people sound like they have a deficit, they're ill, they're sick, and it makes both people that don't have it look down upon them very, very much. And that do have it affects their self-esteem and stuff like that, and also can even turn them away from your site. So try to avoid terms oftentimes of disorder, illness. For example, big fancy language use identity first language, such as autistic versus person first language, is like person with autism, especially if you're talking about neurotypes. Now, less so if you're talking about actual medical diseases like diabetes and stuff, but I still would try to avoid overly language that makes it overly sound scary. Not because some stuff like diabetes and cancer are actually horrible diseases compared to autism and stuff, but because I don't want to make someone feel worse than it is and just use the fear factor to raise money. If the fear factor should come from the people themselves describing it, and you should look over them. So that's with the medical model. And also another one that can help with website design in the future is to have the ability to block out certain sections in your thing or focus on certain sections so the whole website is not as overwhelming. Well, thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe. We're able to 10 out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year and 4,000 watch hours, which is really hard. With your help, I think can do it. Again, thank you very much. Goodbye.